All right, so welcome back. So what if we want to, when we update the name right here, we want to pass the name and we don't want to hard code the name right here. So I want to pass an argument, but we know that by default, what gets passed is going to be the event. So, okay, well, let me just give you an example of this. I'm going to go right here to the first one where we change the name and I want to update the name, but I want to specify right here what is the name. So I'm going to be opening and closing, and I'm going to say that the name that I want to update to is going to be Steve. So now on our function, I'm going to be getting that, that value. So I'm going to say that this one is going to be the new name, and we are going to be getting that one. So if I do new name and I do a new name instead of Steve, whatever is that we pass right here is going to be used on that function as an argument. So I'm going to go here, and I guess we are doing on double click, I'm going to say just simple click. I'm going to go here, and if I reload it, I'm going to click it, and now we get Steve. The thing is that when you do something like this, you are removing the access, the direct access that you get to the actual event. So you don't get it anymore. But what happens is that it's going to be passed, it's going to be moved to a second argument. So if I wanted to catch the argument, I'm going to need to do comma, and then I'm going to need to access the event right here. If I go there and I do a simple console log of the event, we are not going to get it, and I'm going to show you why in a second. So I'm going to do console, I'm going to go to the console, and then I'm going to do click, and if we get it, we get Steve, but the event is going to be undefined, so we don't get it anymore. And it's because when you are passing an argument, you are removing it, and now you need to do the event manually. You need to pass the event manually. And to do so, you need to do $, and then event. And, you're going to be getting it. So if I reload the application and I do the same thing, I get the Steve, but now, I get the event. Now, another thing that you get with events, especially, with the VON, you get access to modifiers. In this case, we are doing click, but, if we go after the click, I can do dot, and now I can do right. And this is a modifier. It's just, we are still doing click, but it's going to be right and then click. And if I go here, reload the application, if I left click it, nothing happens. And I'm going to right click it in 3, 2, 1, then, and only then, it changes. So most directives, they do have some kind of a modifier, and they are all different. In the case of the VON, if we go to the documentation, I have it right here, VON. Notice that we have a long list of modifiers. We can listen for the left, the right, the middle, click. We can stop if you're doing, a time of animation. We can stop the propagation of the event. We can do that. But not all of the different directives in the case of 4, they have modifiers. Some of them they do, and some of them they don't. So you will need to check the documentation for the modifiers that you have available. Now, in the case of the on, one of the most common examples is going to be the prevent default. And I guess I'm going to need to give you an example. I'm going to delete the box example, because it's a little bit crowded right here. And I'm going to go to chords, I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to remove this one as well. So we just get, the update name. You're not going to use it, but still, I'm going to keep it for now. So I just get the Francis one. Cool. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to say HR, and then I'm going to be creating a form. So form, open and close. And inside, let's say that we have an input. And for now, again, I'm not going to do something super challenging because we are going to talk about forms in a minute. So I'm going to be creating a button, and the button is going to be submit. And then inside the type of the button, it's submit. And then, of course, when we have a form, and it's going to look pretty ugly, when we submit, the default behavior of a form is going to be reloading the page so we can post it to the server. And that's, what happens by default. So if I enter whatever and I submit, the application is going to reload. Usually when we work with JavaScript and we want to handle the task, the submission of the form locally, within the JavaScript, well, we prevent the submission of the form. So we do it manually, but in this case, you don't need to. With the VON, you can listen for the submission of the form. And in this case, when you do VON and submit, you need to handle the submission on a different way. So we can create a function to handle the form. So I'm going to go right here and say that we have a function just like that. And then it calls handle form, and then we open and close. And then, of course, we need to return it right here at the bottom. Let me just copy, paste. There you go. So when we submit the form, in this case, I'm going to be doing something simple like console and then log. And I'm going to say, form submitted, something like that. Every time I do handle form, it's going to go to this v-on because it's listening to that function, and we run the function. Now again, remember what I said before, the default behavior of a form is to reload the application. So if I do submit, it's going to reload the application. How can we stop this? The default way is going to be catching the event, going right here and saying event prevent, and then default. And this is the classic way of doing this. If I go here, reload the application, if I press whatever and I submit, notice that it's not reloading the application and we are getting the console log. And it's because, we are doing the event prevent default. Super classic. So since we are using a directive and the v-on, we don't need to use it this way. The v-on has a directive called prevent. And if I go here and say dot and use that modifier, prevent, there we go. And right here, I don't need to do this anymore. And I save it and reload the application. Now, we don't need to write this or do the prevent default manually anymore because the modifier is going to do it for us. So, all the view is kind of completely filled with this tiny little things that help you do things faster. Okay, so I guess we are done with this. Remember that for each directive, you can go to documentation and look for the available modifiers. And I guess since we are we are doing forms, we can move forward to the next topic, which is going to be forms. And we are still, using directives. The next directive is going to be vModel, which is something that we use with forms.